there. So I'm so excited today. We are going to be able to meet with Ron Kaufman, who is the author of Uplifting Service. And I absolutely fell in love with this because if you know anything about me, it is all about customer service. You know, people always ask me questions about, how can I get more clients and all of this kind of stuff. But if you're not taking care of the people that you're working with right now, then your business can suffer. And so when I found this book, Uplifting Service by Ron Kaufman, I knew that I had to interview him right away. So I'm going to let him share a little bit of information about himself and what Uplifting Service is all about. So all to you, Ron.
Okay, well, wonderful to be with you today. Thank you so much for the interview. My name is Ron Kaufman. I'm actually speaking to you today from Singapore, which is where I've been living for the past 23 years, and from this space traveling and working with clients and companies all over the world. I'm the author of the New York Times best-selling book, Uplifting Service, The Proven Path to Delighting Your Customers, Colleagues, and Everyone Else You Meet. If you find that you're intrigued by this interview and you'd like to get the first part of the book for free, you can get it at www.upliftingservice.com. Now, your first question, Joanne, was what is uplifting customer service?
Exactly.
So let's take this apart. There's three different words there. We've got uplifting, customer, and service. So why don't we start with what maybe should be the easiest one, which is what is service?
Yeah.
So it's very interesting, Joanne, that when you ask people what is service, you get all kinds of funny answers. People say, well, it's making people smile or being nice or doing what somebody asked you to do or going the extra mile. Or, in other words, we don't really have a clear definition of a word that I think should be very clearly defined. For example, if we say price, we know what it means. Profit, we know what it means. Time, we know what it means. But when we say service, people get a little bit fuzzy. So let's start here by putting a clear definition on the word. And it goes like this. Service is taking action to create value for someone else. Service is doing something, of course. So service is taking action, but what's the purpose of the action? It's got to be something that some other person will want, need, appreciate, prefer, or the word I use is value. It's something that you do that helps take care of their concern. So when you look at this definition, service is taking action to create value for someone else, then just about everybody who works anywhere, in any position, in any function, at any level, is by definition a service provider. Now people may not remember that. They may say, no, my job is to do what I'm told. Or my job is to follow the procedure. Or my job is to... But they forget that the purpose of that procedure, that checklist, that job, is to do something that somebody else will value. So let me pause here for a second, because I know you like to have it as a conversation. What do you think of this definition of the word service?
You know, it's funny that you asked that because as soon as I read that in your book, it's one of the notes that I took down because it just really resonated with me. Like, yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's taking action to serve someone else. That's
right.
It, point and simple.
Taking action to do something that someone else will want, value, appreciate. Right? Okay.
Absolutely.
And it's intriguing because that's not taught in school.
No.
That's not even taught in university. So you have all these people who are learning various skills, how to be a tutor, how to be a surgeon, how to be an engineer, how to be whatever, but they don't realize that the reason they're going to do that is for the well-being and caring for the concerns of someone else. So now we have a definition of service. Now let's look at this thing called customer service. Because it's not only customer service, there's internal service, there's the foreign service, there's military service, but here we're talking about customer service. And in that two-word phrase, you actually have two words. Service, we know what that means now. Customer is the other half of the equation. And it's very intriguing to me how many people say, well, I'm the customer, so your job is to serve me, and act like there's no responsibility on the side of the customer to also contribute to the interaction. And yet we know that if you're the service provider and you have one customer who's a jerk and he's banging on the table and he's unpleasant, and you have another customer who's appreciative and helpful and thoughtful, which person do you want to serve better? Of course, you're a human being too. You're going to gravitate towards the person who's being nice to you. So customers can actually play a big role in influencing the quality of service that we get by being a better customer that the service provider is giving to. And you can do that simply with things like find out your service provider's name and use it. Hi, Joanne. Thanks so much for serving me today. I really appreciate it. Right? Or, gosh, you did a wonderful job. I'm leaving here fully satisfied. You do good work. I mean, those little things can make it so much easier for a service provider. So customer service, both sides. Again, let me pause for a moment. Joanne, in your life, do you see many people having this understanding of how they are as a customer is going to influence the quality of service that they get?
I personally see it as something that for me, I want to approach everybody as if they, deserve my respect, but as a human, not even just somebody who is serving me. I'm going to look them in the eye. I'm going to do these kinds of things. Do I see everybody else do this? No, especially in the United States. I mean, in the United States, it's all about me, and I'm going to get what I want now. And I see a lot of people who are extremely rude to people who are serving them versus being grateful and appreciative of the service that they're being provided.
Well, it's interesting what you say about, the American culture today. And I mean, there are different cultures all over the world and different moments in history when there are different social moods and expectations people have. But, in the book, it says at the very beginning that I'm a man on a mission to uplift the spirit and quality of service all over the world. And I think that what you point to is a great reason why that mission is actually important, because we do live with each other. The quality of our life is not just isolated to me or even my family or even my neighborhood, but we live in a much larger community, whether you see it at the size of your city, your country, or the world. And ultimately, we're all in this together. That old phrase about what goes around comes around is true. And so if you could be the person who goes out and uplifts someone else during the day, at some point it's going to come back around to you. Maybe not one-to-one,
right?
But it'll ripple out and ripple back in. So now we can look at that third word, uplifting customer service, and what does that mean? And what it means to me is this, that if I'm the service provider, I want to serve the customer and give them what they need and value, but I want to do it in a way that uplifts who they are and how they feel, so that they walk away from that interaction or they put down the phone or whatever it is feeling better about who they are in the world, uplifting them. But it should not only be one direction, service provider to customer. I think the customer also has a responsibility to be uplifting in the service interaction. We talked about that earlier, about the customer's responsibility. So that is what I mean by uplifting customer service.
So it's on both sides there, with the customer and the service provider providing that uplifting service.
And it's also with your colleagues. It's also with your suppliers, your vendors, and your contractors, the people who you're paying money to, and so you want to let them, they're part of your business ecosystem. It's also your distributors or your resellers. It's anybody within your company. It's anybody who reports to you. It's anybody that you report to. So you start to realize, oh my gosh, service is all around us. It is the thing that ties all of us together, not only in terms of the economy, but in terms of our community as well.
Yeah, and when you talk about, when we talk about teachers specifically, that are working in the classroom, we don't see our students sitting in front of us as customers. We see them as children, and that really puts then sometimes the teacher in a different kind of position. And I found working in the classroom that if I spoke to them more at an even level, and I got to their level when I taught to them, that things worked out better. And
that's right.
Even with the parents, when it came to speaking with the parents and being able to communicate with them, to do it in a loving manner versus a condescending manner. And I think that's like a big piece when it comes to, now as we start our own tutoring companies.
Yeah.
We have to even go way above and beyond anything that we've ever done in the classroom. Because what we did in the classroom certainly is not going to have a successful business if we don't put this as our number one priority.
Very well said. This whole world of what I would refer to as sort of freelance education, that somebody like you in today's world can just declare, I'm going to be an online tutor, I'm a reading tutor, I'm a coach, and nobody can stop you. And in fact, you can attract customers and have very satisfied customers and get good referrals. And so you realize from the beginning, hey, I better be taking care of not only the youth that I'm teaching, but also their parents. And if there's a teacher in their school that wants to be involved, you can include them as well.
Mm-hmm.
But when you get to the formal education system, I think you've pointed to an important thing that, teachers don't, in all of their education of how to be a teacher, it was all about pedagogy and all about, but now you really have to connect with those kids, because in today's world, those kids could be under the table texting away or doing something on Facebook and completely distracted from the class. What's going to keep their attention is your attention. Mm-hmm. It's your engagement with them. And even just listening to you, Joanne, made me appreciate again my grandmother, who I talk about at the very beginning of the book Uplifting Service, who taught kindergarten for 40 years. Mm-hmm. And she did exactly what you said, is that she got right down with the kids and played with them during the day. And so, of course, she had a fabulous class.
Yeah, it's amazing. A lot of people don't really see how a lot of people, when they think about online tutoring, they don't see that connection's even possible. If they've never been online before, they have a very negative attitude towards that and how you can have that connection. But it is amazing the relationships that you can build via Skype or Google Hangouts just like this, because it's just like you're right there with them in person. It's no different. Yeah. You can see them, you can do everything, you can interact.
Right.
Got to make it fun.
We're at the beginning of a new age of educational interaction. What's been made possible by this keyboard and that camera and Google Hangout? I mean, our parents, even when we were young, it didn't exist. Now, when today's young people are our age, this will look like ancient technology. Who knows? Maybe then we'll have holographic projection, and you and I will be sitting next to each other on a couch having a cup of coffee in two different physical locations.
Yeah, I always get giddy when it comes to technology and the possibilities, because I love technology and the things that it can do and provide, and
that's wonderful.
It's just absolutely amazing.
Very good, very good. Okay, let's go on. What's your next question?
So when we're talking about like online tutors who are starting their own company, what's something that they should strive to do when it comes to uplifting service?
Well, one of the things, whoever it is that you're tutoring, should we assume here that it's going to be tutoring young people, or does this include adult coaching?
It can be both, but for the most part, people are tutoring children.
Okay, so let's stay focused in that area. Then immediately we need to be clear that there's at least 2, maybe 3 different people that you need to serve as the tutor. One of them is the child. One of them is the parent, or 2 parents, hopefully, or 2 adult figures that you'll have there that you can communicate with. And the other is whoever else is working with that child at school. Now, it may not be that you need to bring them into the Hangout, but if you could do an online tutoring session where you can get the teacher and the child with you on there, it lets the child know that they're part of that connective space. Now, of course, you don't need the teacher there for every session, but a lot of tutors will just treat it as sort of a one way, and what happens over here in school is something separate, and yet school is where that child is going to be formally assessed. It's where they're going to be graded, it's where they're going to be tested, it's where they're going to be evaluated. And so if you as the tutor can figure out a way to reach out and connect with that teacher in a supportive manner, then it allows the teacher to know that this child is getting that little extra boost, and in fact could in some cases even be involved in working with you as the tutor on what that child should be working on.
Yeah, that is so powerful. I know I've tried to connect with other teachers and stuff out there, and there's that, you kind of get this weird kind of look when people are like, you do what? From other teachers who just don't really understand what can be done in this medium. And so some of the teachers are kind of scared off from that, but I think as technology grows and people become more comfortable with it, what an awesome way to really make that connect on that education and how important it is. And I think, too, one of the things that's most important is being able to use similar strategies, because if the kid is learning 3 different kinds of strategies to figure out how to sound out words, they just become confused.
That's a very good point. I want to go back to what you said about some teachers give you that funny look, right? So what that means is that they are uncomfortable. They're uncertain, they're unsure, they're anxious, they may feel threatened, they may feel intimidated by the technology, but that's a perfect example of where a tutor then should say, okay, now how do I design my interaction with this teacher in a manner that puts them at ease, makes them feel encouraged and welcome, lets them know that they are going to be involved in something really positive. And so paying attention to your communication with them, even to the point where you say, now I know that many people, you know, or some teachers have questions like these. One, and then you answer it. Two, and you put a good picture of yourself in there. Or maybe you even take the time to do a little recording for that teacher because you know their name. And you just say, hi, my name is Joanne, and I'm an online tutor. I'm going to be working with Sally, who's in your class. I think she's really lucky to have you as her teacher. She's told me a little bit about what she's doing in English class with you, and I just want to let you know I'm completely here to support. Here's some of the ways that I like to do that and how we might be able to work together. And you do this little video clip, and you put it on YouTube. But you put it on YouTube as a private message, and then you send it to that teacher. So it's Joanne, the tutor, reaching out to me as the teacher, completely demystifies the technology, and then you can walk the teacher into participation.
Yeah, that is beautiful. That is not something I have ever done before, and I'm excited to try that and put that into practice with my students and the teachers that they do work with. That's awesome.
My daughter is about to go off to college next year, and she's been working with a coach in the United States on the college selection process and the academic application process. And throughout the entire experience, which has been more than a year, I've never seen this person's face. Even though there'd be occasional Skype calls, there's never been like the effort to let's see each other and talk together. And I realize in speaking with you that would be such an easy thing to do, and it could open up a whole channel for connection.
Absolutely, and then it closes that gap of understanding of really how powerful and effective this can be as well.
That's right.
That's just awesome. I'm excited. So when it comes to things that online tutors can do with their students and with the parents, what kind of uplifting service do you think that they could provide for them?
Well, I think when you say students, I'm going to leave that in your turf. You're a reading coach. You know different reading strategies. You know levels of reading comprehension, speed, phonetics. That's really your world. But let's look at this parent issue.
Yeah.
Because, and really remember, the definition of service is taking action to create value for someone else. So the key question is, what does this particular parent value? So we could say, well, of course they value their child reading better. But that's far too simplistic an answer. Does the parent really value that the child enjoy herself while she's with you? Does she value that the child read faster? Does she value that the child, learn to read something in particular? Does she value just that the child will be taken off of her hands for this period of time on a regular basis on certain days? I mean, it could be a working mother who is just so stressed out and so overscheduled that the greatest value is just that you're going to be there on time a certain day and take care of my kid.
Yes.
And if you understand that as a tutor, then you'll put more attention into talking to the parent about that and not about, phonetic pronunciation or reading comprehension, which may not be what that parent values. Now, I'm not saying that they shouldn't value it in some way, but you always want to serve somebody where they are now. Find out what it is they need, they want, they value, and then adapt your service to provide them with that.
So how do you go about, because everybody is going to be different in what it is specifically that they're looking for. I mean, I've noticed with my students that if the students are having a great time during the session, the parents are usually very happy because then the student comes back and they're excited and all of that. How do you go about finding out what it is that the parent really wants in a session?
Oh, that's a great question. The way you do that is by asking essentially the same question over and over and over again and giving them a chance to think before they answer. Let me explain what I mean. The first question might be, so now that I'm going to be tutoring your son, tell me, what is it that's most important to you in these tutoring sessions? And they'll answer something. And you go, great, I understand that's the most important thing. What else is important? And they'll tell you that. And you go, perfect. You know, if at the end of our time together with your son, he were to say one or two things, what would you most like to hear him say? I'll tell you that. You know, if there was something that you would just love that I do in my sessions with your child that you haven't already told me about it, what would that be? And you give them a chance to answer. And then you say, you know, if you could wave a magic wand over this whole relationship I'm going to have with your child as a reading tutor online coach, what's the one magical thing you'd like to see happen? Terrific. Tell me, is there anything else? I mean, what am I doing? I'm asking over and over and over again, what do you want? But I'm asking it just by changing the question. What you'll notice happens is this. They'll tell you the first things top of mind first. Then they'll tell you something else that's there, but it's still relatively close. By the time you get to the third, fourth, fifth, and sixth version of that question, they'll start to do this, which means they're thinking. Maybe for the first time, they'll be actually thinking about what else would be a really good thing here, about having the kid read something at dinner, or about, you know, showing me what they read, or about me being able to be involved in which book they're going to choose next, or about them reading one of the things that I read when I was a child, or that they learn to read to their younger sister when the younger sister's going to bed at night. I mean, all kinds of things like that will not necessarily be the ones that first come to mind.
Right.
So you can't ask the question just once. You've got to ask it, ask it, ask it, ask it, ask it, ask it, ask it.
Wow, what an awesome strategy. That is absolutely fantastic. I love that because, I mean, if we're really going to provide this uplifting service to our clients, we need to know what it is that they really, truly want from us and what we're doing for their child. And it is going to be different for everybody. So thank you for giving us a way to be able to figure that out. I was taking notes very I'm like, okay, I'm writing this down. I'm not losing this.
You know, the good news about this is that two good news is one is it's going to be on YouTube, so you can go back and listen again.
Yes.
But the other is in the book, Uplifting Service, there's actually a chapter towards the back. You probably haven't gotten there yet. It's in the section called Learn, and it's about building a service partnership, which is what you want to have with a parent as well as with the student, right? And it gives a whole list of questions like that.
Fantastic. Well, I'm excited because I have it, and I've been reading it, and I've been absolutely loving it. I love, too, that you had mentioned that you need to consistently delight your customers. That was a phrase that just, as I read that, I was like, consistently delight. So I started thinking about how is it that I consistently delight my customers? Am I consistently delighting my customers? And different things to do. What would you say? You talked about before the customer's responsibility to uplifting service as well. What do you do when the customer you're serving is not of the uplifting type?
Right. So somebody's in a bad mood, or they may be using profanity, or they're treating you rudely, or whatever. Well, first of all, the first thing I always say is let's give the other human being a great big benefit of the doubt. And what I mean by that is this. You don't know what's going on with their mother's health. You don't know what's going on in their personal finances. You don't know what's going on in their love life. You don't know what's going on in their job. All you know is that you're encountering a human being that is upset, pissed off, being mean, whatever it may be. Let's take a step back, and rather than just react to that other person's way of being, let's respond with a first instinct of compassion, because there must be something going on inside that human's life, and it could be from their child. I mean, who knows? It doesn't have to be something current, but it happened long before you showed up. And so let's just have sort of a compassionate space be created, right? Then the next thing is, I would say, don't take it personally. You've seen those, those Red Bull charging matadors, right? You let the bull run by. So, what I would do is, here it comes at me, and I just kind of sidestep that one a little bit and say, okay, I can see that there's a situation here, and I want to do everything I can to help. and then they argue, and you go, fine, I get that. You know, my objective here is to help you. So
Right.
if we can work together, and then, you know, if they never do calm down, you can go, look, I want to help you, and when you speak with me that way, it makes it harder for me to be able to help you. So if you could, da, 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 da. Now, if they still don't, you are a human being too. You have dignity as well. So you have the authority in various situations to be able to say, I'm not sure that this is going to work right now. It doesn't work for me to be trying to serve you when you're treating me this way, because it is a two-way street. Happy to serve you and come back later, or if you can make an adjustment right now, that's fine, but otherwise I'm going to have to step away here, either pass you to somebody else or ask you to come back another time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's powerful.
That assumes you have the authority to do that. You know, you may not.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. And, you know, especially in this space where, you know, online tutors are creating, you know, their own companies, they need to be able to, you know, speak in that understanding manner and be able to also respect their boundaries of what's acceptable and what's not acceptable when people are treating you.
And after one of those sessions, you know, when you finally hang up or you step away, you need to do a double work, not to carry the negativity with you. God, that guy was such a jerk. Not at all. You want to complete that, you know, close your eyes, do whatever you need to do, and send them a blessing. I mean, send them, you know, a great big envelope of care that they should be well and settle down, and you'll talk to them another time. And then extend that envelope of care to yourself, so that you're not affected in the next person that you go and see.
Absolutely, because most likely you're going to be working with another student after that, and you want to make sure that you're in a place where you can be of service. And if you allow that to hinder your feelings, it's going to affect then the service you provide for the next people.
Joanne, I want to go back to something that you mentioned when you used the word delight. And I just want to say something to your people who'll be watching this about that. Delight doesn't necessarily mean to exceed expectations. Delight doesn't necessarily mean to surprise somebody with outstanding service. Those are definitely ways that you can delight someone. But let's remember that there are some people who what they value may be absolutely predictable delivery of a clear service promise. And if you deliver exactly as promised, they will be delighted. So let's not use the word delight to only mean woo. It can also mean giving somebody exactly what it is that they want, if they are that type of person who says, what I value is you doing exactly what it is we've agreed upon. Then do that, and they'll be delighted.
Absolutely. And you know, I find that when I show up on time, which I always do because that is a priority for me, that I show up to my sessions, I show up on time, and I can tell that my clients are all very pleased because that, you know, they can count on me even on holidays. Because whenever I go away, I just take my students with me. I take my computer with me.
Good
and
for you.
I still
Joanne,
work with them.
How long have you been doing this online tutoring?
I've been doing it since 2010, so about 3.5 years.
That's great. And how many students have you tutored over all that time?
Oh gosh, over 100.
Good for you. Good for you. Congratulations.
Yeah, I currently right now am working with about 20 students as of today. I got another student today from Alaska. So
isn't that wonderful?
Yeah, it's really cool. It's really cool. I mean, to be able to work with people from Australia, Canada, all over the United States, it's really, really neat.
All over the world, coming soon.
That's right. That's right. And although I was a little disheartened to find out that that it was colder in Wisconsin than in Alaska today. I was like, I don't think that's right.
Yeah, but you have cheese.
It's frozen right now. So when it comes to, you know, this uplifting service and setting this culture really for your own business, how much of a priority should that take when it comes to all the other things that you're kind of juggling?
How much of a priority should uplifting service take compared to, for example, developing a good product or working out your pricing strategy or figuring out a way to do better marketing? Yeah, those kinds of things.
Yeah.
So, you know, it is as important as the others when you're, a young entrepreneur getting something going. But the thing to bear in mind is this: many of those other areas will become what's called commoditized. In other words, you look at today's world, when you go out to dinner, how many restaurants are there? They all serve food. I mean, even, Chinese restaurants, there are multiple, right? You go to a store to buy something, you could buy the same thing in a bunch of different stores, and they're all going to compete with each other on price. But if any of these service providers, any of these outlets, creates a great service experience, you're more likely to go back there. Mm-hmm. And that is a way you can differentiate who you are and what you do from other people who do the same thing. They may do the same thing, like even being a reading coach, but it's that reputation that you develop for the service experience you create that can differentiate you. And that differentiation is valuable in a couple of ways. One is you'll keep the students you have. Your students will recommend, or the parents will recommend and refer other students. You will enjoy it more. And let's be candid, you can actually charge higher prices. Mm-hmm. When you've got that kind of a service reputation, it's like, the Singapore Airlines story or the Ritz-Carlton story. They can charge more because people know that when they get on that plane or when they go to that hotel, they're going to be treated in a certain way.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's exactly been my experience. 50% of my clients come from referrals. And so that's why this is just so pivotal to what it is that you do. And I'm sure even probably more than that come from referrals versus all the other things that I do to try to get noticed.
Right. And one day, Joanne, you may grow your business to the point where you have 2, 3, 4 other people working with you who are also online tutoring coaches, in which case you want the service reputation of the company to be known, like these guys give great. Oh, it doesn't matter which coach you get. It doesn't matter which tutor you have. Go there, right? Yeah. It's like, there's some dental offices. There's one here in Singapore called, Your Magnificent Smile. That's the title of the dental clinic. And they just do such a great job of taking care of kids and parents. You don't care who the dentist is. You know that you're going to go to that clinic, whereas most dentists in the past, you're going to that particular dentist. And he could be a gnarly, snarly kind of guy, and it didn't matter. He was still the dentist. It's not going to cut it in today's world as we go forward. People want the service and the quality.
So you're seeing that the expectations of the customers is completely changing. Would you say that part of that is because of social media?
Well, social media is a really powerful tool in 2 ways. One is if you bother somebody or you upset somebody or you disappoint somebody, we know that they can hurt you. They can go online and go viral and put up nasty comments and give you 1 star and all kinds of things like that can really damage your reputation. So that's the downside. The upside is it's also super easy for people to be able to promote you. Mm-hmm. So, for example, we spoke earlier about you're reading a copy of my book, Uplifting Service, and you'll put up a review at Amazon.com. Well, I want to thank you for offering to do that because that review will help other people evaluate. And so there's another version of social media that can have a very big impact.
Absolutely. And even just simply just throwing out sometimes those simple responses can be helpful for clients because they want to be able to do good things for you, but they don't always know what it is that you would appreciate. So if you just let them know what it is that you want, then...
Service is taking action to create value for someone else. And in a customer service relationship, it goes both ways. So for you as an online tutor to actually find, you've got a parent who's just delighted with the work you've done with their child, for you to be able to say, Mrs. Whatever, I'm so happy that you're glad, with how little Johnny is doing. I wonder, could I ask you a favor? Would you be willing to, and then you can get a testimonial, you can get a referral, you can get, whatever it is that's important for you, Joanne.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's exactly what I've done. LinkedIn is, my professional, where I have all my professional stuff, and so I asked them, if you're on LinkedIn, could you leave a LinkedIn testimonial on there, or talk about it with your friends on Facebook. A lot of my parents are on Facebook, so that is the social media tool that I refer to, and then from there, anybody who that might need some help, if you just let them know about my services, that would be fantastic. And they're always happy to oblige with that. I just have to be specific in what it is that I'm asking them to do. And a lot of times people will say, oh, I'm already doing that.
That's great. That's
Which is
great.
fantastic, because one time my husband was at church, and the first client I ever worked with went to the same church as us, and we didn't even know it.
Mm.
And he was sitting at the same table as her, and she was complimenting my services and talking about how she has the best reading tutor and how
Right.
she's awesome and all of this stuff. And my husband's like, she's talking about my life. Like,
How nice. How nice.
and this was to another person who had a child struggling with reading. So
Very good. Very good.
yeah, very cool
All
stuff.
right. I think you've got one more question for me.
I do. What of all of the uplifting stories that you have, what is your favorite uplifting story?
Oh, it's the way I met my wife.
Aww.
So I was scuba diving in northwestern Australia in a place called Ningaloo Reef, which is opposite the Great Barrier Reef. It's on the other side. And I was there to swim with whale sharks, which are these enormous and very, very gentle plankton-eating animals. And I've been a pretty avid scuba diver since way back in the 1970s, and that's my thing. It's my favorite sport. And so I was in that part of the world scuba diving with these amazing whale sharks. And when I got to this tiny little town, which is, there's like nothing there except some scuba diving, I got to the place I was staying. It was called the Pot Shot Hotel. And it was like a really little dive. And I had the phone number for the scuba diving shop, so I called the shop. And normally when I go diving places, you know, it's nice resorts, it's different places around the world, and you call the dive shop, and what they'll do is they'll come over and they'll pick you up. They have a van, they pick up your equipment, etc. And I said, you know, hi, my name is Ron, and this woman answered and said, hello, this is Coral Coast Dive, and I said, you know, I'm here at this Pot Shot Hotel, can you guys arrange to come and pick me up? And she thought, she almost blurted out, like, what kind of a jerk are you? And I didn't understand. Well, it turns out that the dive shop was right next door. and I didn't know it, right? So you know, she basically then explained, well, why don't you just walk here? You know, oh, okay. So I went in and I met this person. She was the woman, she worked at the dive shop. And over the next 2 or 3 days, I watched her serving. I'd just be in the shop looking at the equipment, signing up for a dive, you know, having a bite to eat, whatever. And I was just watching, and she had this really, you know, nice way about her. And I mean, let's face it, I was starting to get attracted. And one day I was in there and she'd had a tough day, and you could see, you know, the tears were just close to coming out. And so I was being the compassionate guy, right? I was like, oh, really tough day, you know, just kind of commiserating with her, letting all the good emotions flow between us. And all of a sudden a German couple came in the dive shop to go diving. And this woman, who I ended up marrying, she went like this. She went, hi, can I help you? And she just transformed. She went from this, you know, emotionally disturbed, upset woman to, hi, can I help you? And I looked at her and I thought, wow, that person really understands what it means to be in service to someone else. And I said, you know, I came here looking for whale sharks, but I think I found a mermaid. And I ended up going back to the same town 3 weeks later, which is like a 15-hour flight and drive to get there, just to take her out to dinner. And we've been together for 10 years now, and she's obviously a scuba diver as well, and we still get to go scuba diving together. But it was that amazing service moment that I saw in her that had me realize that's a service provider I want in my life.
Oh, that is so sweet. I love that. So when she's mad, like if she gets mad at somebody else, she comes home and now she's like, how can I serve you dinner?
No, I didn't say that.
Wouldn't that be awesome? See, service does, though, work inside of our homes, doesn't it?
It definitely does.
It definitely does. I've been thinking about that as I've been reading your book. You know, how can I be a better service provider in my own home to my own children and to my husband? You know, what is it that I can do better? And I think
That's right.
That's what successful people do, right? They're constantly thinking about how can I do things better, not stay exactly where I'm at, but how can I do things better?
And you know, it's successful not only in the sense of wealth and money and prestige. Like I'll wrap up here with a quote from somebody, and it had a big impact on my life just recently when I was upset about something, and it was from Mahatma Gandhi. And he said, be the change you want to see in the world. So the next time there's something that you want to see somebody else be nicer, or stop being that way or whatever, hold on a second, what is that change? And I'll be that change in the world, and that'll help make a better world.
Oh, you are a delight. Absolutely a delight. I absolutely have enjoyed doing this interview with you wholeheartedly. If people want to be able to get a copy of their book, where can they go again?
Go to upliftingservice.com, and you can get the first section for free, and you'll also find all the buttons there to be able to easily order online.
Fantastic. Well, thanks again for your uplifting interview.
Thank you, Joanne.
And I hope that you have a wonderful, uplifting rest of your day.
Thank you so much. Nice to be with you.
Thank you.